wins again.
Excellent.
I will announce that momentarily. All right. Ryan, Chad, Brandon, Dan, Emily. Good to see you all. All right. And Chris, you're letting people in, I assume?
I am.
Awesome. We will get started a minute after, as usual, as per usual. Let me get my slides on screen. There we go. Right. And just giving people a minute. Hoping that everyone's off to a great start. Jackie Popovich, how are you?
Good. How's it going, Matt?
Very, very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're probably overdue. We should catch up.
Yes. Please do.
All right, we'll do. Okay, I think we will get started. I think most everyone on here has been on here before, so you guys know what you're here for. So I'll just jump in and always just remind us all that as part of CI Mastermind, we're going to be discussing our topic. We've got Tim Barrett on today. Hi, Tim. And so as we discuss, respect your peers, don't share information that you shouldn't, and help each other. Help each other. We're all in continuous improvement, so we should be helping each other. This session is recorded and transcribed. We'd like to see your face. For those of you with your cameras off, turn them on. If you can't turn them on, it's okay, I guess. Use the chat for conversations. So, hey, Edge.
How are you?
So last month, no worries. Last month, we got a lot of mileage, I thought, out of the biggest win. Hopefully you guys appreciated seeing the biggest win come through your emails kind of mid-month. So let's do that again. So in the chat, put your name, your title. If you're in transition looking for something, let us know. And what was your win this month? What was a big deal for you? Share that with your friends and peers on the call. And a question for you all. Are there any objections? If someone wants to reach out and go, hey, I'd really like to reach out to Edge Cobble because he had a win that I feel like could be a win for us. And is anyone object to me making those connections outside of the meeting? Objections. Nope. Okay, cool. I will facilitate anyone that wants to learn about a specific win because maybe it's something you feel like you could use at your company. So I think that's how we get a little more mileage out of those wins. As always, this will be 45 minutes. I will do some introduction, which I'm already doing. Tim Barrett is going to walk us through, I think, a topic. This month and next month's topics, I think, are long overdue. Talking about values and how everything rolls down from there. And then next month, I'll talk about next month in a minute, but innovation is the next topic. So we'll get into that shortly. If you were not aware, we are now posting these on our YouTube channel, along with other things. You probably all know that I do. I don't know if I'm prolific, but I'm a weekly poster on LinkedIn. Lots of blogs, and I also occasionally do a podcast here and there. And so we've decided to make more use of our YouTube channel. We decided there's not enough content on YouTube. It needs more. But maybe it needs more continuous improvement content. Hopefully we can all agree on that. And so that's being posted now, and CI Mastermind Lives will be there on YouTube, so you can always go back and look at an old session. So you can all be quite happy and go tell your loved ones, friends, and neighbors that you are now YouTube stars, as you're also part of our YouTube posts. So, anyways, feel free to give that a look. It's YouTube at Chalmers Street Consulting. My dad is a frequent watcher of it. He tells me recently. Okay, next month we have Bruce Vojak joining us. Bruce has a kind of multifaceted career, but he did quite a bit of teaching at U of I, specifically on the area of innovation. And one of the things I will often say is I believe that innovation is the pinnacle, is the top of continuous improvement. In two different ways. We should be innovating when we continuously improve, right? That's certainly part of it. But even more so, we should do continuous improvement so we make the space for strategy and product innovation, right? What's the purpose of making time? To me, it's not just to improve bottom lines. It's to find new and better ways to serve the customer, to innovate on our current offerings, innovate how we serve, so we make a better company, we make greater loyalty with our customers, and so on. And so Bruce is going to talk about that. He's also going to talk about the tension that can exist between, operational efficiency and innovation, which I think is an important component as well. So I hope you will make the time and come talk with Bruce. He's very experienced in this area, and I think you'll learn a lot. So with that, Tim, I'm going to hand it over to you now. Please give us a little introduction, tell us what we're going to learn, and then lead us through some conversation.
Yeah, great. I appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. So my name is Tim Barrett. I am an EOS implementer. If you're not sure what EOS is, EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you've ever worked in an organization utilizing EOS, you know just how important, how effective it can be. If you have any other questions about that, feel free to reach out to me at any time. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So, and what I'm going to talk about today, really since I've become an EOS implementer, I have really begun to understand how important it is and how basic core values are, and can really revolutionize and make things absolutely clear for an organization. And a lot of times, unfortunately, companies don't take advantage of it and kind of gloss over it. And so I'm going to take you back about 25 years ago. I was working for a company. It was actually Chili's was the name of the company. I come out of the restaurant business for about 35 years. I was working on the West Coast, actually, Sacramento, California. A lot of growth in that area, a lot of great things. And what I will say is, Chili's at the time had literally split the company in half and ran it like two different divisions. So the West Coast or West Side division really thoroughly embraced their core values. There was absolutely nothing wrong with their core values. They were great, and they really helped guide the culture of the organization. And I went through some life kind of brought me to where I am Nashville. I'm now in Nashville, Tennessee. And as about 20 years ago, I moved out here. And when I first hit the ground, and I moved over with Chili's, it became very apparent that they were absolutely two different cultures. And but prior to me moving here from Nashville, I thought, I'm going to be a Chili head forever. I was thoroughly enjoyed. I loved my career, loved the people I worked with, loved everything about the company. And after being here for about 3 years, I'll be honest with you, I put up with it for a long time, but it just got to the point where I was just burnt out. And a lot of that was because the culture was really draining me as an employee, as a member of that organization. And so, long story short, fast forward a few more years, I became an EOS implementer. And so now I work with organizations, mostly small to medium-sized organizations, and I have seen time and time again just how important core values are. And it's not just core values, you guys. You can certainly hire a marketing agency or a consulting firm, pick out a couple words and throw them up on the wall, and do that. And we now have core values. But it's the way of discovering your specific core values for your organization, and then most importantly is what you do with them afterwards. And so that's what I really wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to share this.
Tim, can I ask just a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
So is what you said that Chili's, where you started on the West Coast, had it had a very defined and positive culture.
Yes.
But they were unable to propagate that culture, such that when you came to Middle America, I guess, it was not only was it not there, but it was a poor culture.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure I followed that.
No, it was good. West Coast was very much, how can I help? How can I help you get better? How can I help myself get better? What is the greater good of the organization? I was involved a lot with training, and when I came out here, it was more about what's in this for me, and that's kind of the difference between the two. And it became really selfish, really self-centered, and not so much about the greater good of the organization. So hope that's helpful. I'm going to bring this up. I'll be honest with you guys. I normally don't like to talk with a flip deck, but I have this available. I think there's some really good stuff in here. So I'm going to flip through it relatively quickly. If I'm going too fast, feel free. Just throw your hand up and say, hey, Tim, slow down, and let's talk about that a little bit. So this is all about core values. Core values, in terms of my mind, goes all the way back to Jim Collins. Jim Collins wrote the book, Good to Great. And he talked about the hedgehog concept, and you guys may be familiar with that, mostly in terms of the mission statement or the vision statement for an organization. But the reality is the hedgehog concept really does play and is aligned with the core values in terms of providing a foundation for an organization. So enough about Jim Collins. I also want to kind of step back and talk to you about a little bit about Patrick Lencioni. I don't know if that's the greatest picture of him or not, but when it comes to core values and establishing those for your organization, there's three things that you can do wrong, that you can fall into a trap. The first one is coming up with a core value that is aspirational. Real quick example, I had a construction firm. I'll just kind of paint a picture, hats on backward, showing up to leadership meetings with dirty jeans, ripped jeans, t-shirts, every other word out of their mouth was a cuss word. And that, I'm not judging. That's who they are, and that's what they were, and it worked well, and it worked for them in the construction phrase. But when it came to establishing their core values, one of them that came up was, we're professional. And, I had to push back and say, kind of BS, you guys are not professional. Now, if you want to become professional, let's put that on the issues list and figure that out. So aspirational, your core values need to reflect who you are and what's important to you as an organization. Because I'll tell you, guys had gone back to their teams and said, hey, we are professional, there would have been huge pushback and really not a lot of buy-in, because people would have just looked and said, this is ridiculous. The next one is accidental. The best example I can give you that is, maybe there's a fashion company or a clothing line, and just in terms of where or how it got started and the development of the organization, everybody in the organization is young and hip and trendy. That's actually an accidental core value where it just kind of organically happened. And if at the end of the day they begin to identify with that or begin to incorporate that as a core value, they can really make some mistakes. Hypothetically, they need somebody working in HR, and they interview somebody and maybe she's a little bit older, he's a little bit older, and he's anything but fashionable, but he's the right person for the job. They could very easily miss out on that right person. And the last one is pay to play. So those are three core value traps. Pay to play is real basic core values, saying things like integrity. We're looking for somebody, that is a hard worker. Well, at the end of the day, those are, every team out there, every organization, you're not going to hire somebody that's, doesn't show integrity, that doesn't have integrity, or hard work, that kind of a thing. So I tend to help my leadership teams identify some core values that are a little bit more than just pay to play or basic. Why core values? There's really three real. It begins to build trust and commitment in your team. It creates a culture of discipline, and it helps navigate challenges. And this is really cool, key. We'll get into some questions, some concerns that people had put prior to when they signed up for this. Navigating challenges, really super important. I love this quote by Kristen Gale, wrote an article in Forbes. When you allow people to remain on your team who refuse to uphold your business's central tenets, it creates a toxic workplace. Nothing erodes culture faster than claiming that your business has a purpose and then allowing team to behave in ways that are contrary to that purpose. So be aware of that as we go through. It's really important that the leadership team not only exhibits those core values, but also hold people accountable to them. And if you're not doing that, you're, again, big, huge disservice. Examples, I'm kind of an example guy. When I, with some things like core values, when I see it, I know it fits. So I wanted to kind of throw these out there to help you guys. Here's three different ones. I'm not going to go over every one of them, but I'll point out these two. Tesla, however you feel about Tesla, these core values: innovation, sustainability, excellence, ability to move. That really, whatever I know about Tesla, that really does describe, to me, is pretty accurate in terms of what their core values are. I really like these ones of Adobe: create the future, own the outcome, raise the bar, and be genuine. And one of the reasons I love these ones, you guys, is they took words and they created action items. So there's a verb in there, and it's create the future, it raise the bar, and it really gives the organization or members of the organization a little bit clearer picture of what they should be doing. So really like those ones. Here's a couple poor examples, and there looks like there may be some people on this call that were a little too young for this whole Enron scandal that happened in 2001. Enron is kind of a classic. They were actually a natural gas company, and they ended up getting into some other stuff. And long story short, they really tripped over themselves. They were not integrous in terms of how they did their accounting system. They faked a lot of stuff. They hid a lot of stuff. So their core values, really, at the end of the day, were just a waste of time. Respect, integrity, communication, excellence. They were everything but that. And then Wells Fargo, here's some from Wells Fargo. I'd love to say that I don't have a cross to bear with them, but I ran into a situation with them. And so I really had no problem putting up there as an example. Assets of the heart, respect. But there was a huge thing that happened in 2016 in terms of their customer service. They replaced those core values, and away they go. So again, yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
Well, two things. I want Brandon to get his question in, but Wells Fargo is one. I don't know if it's in Good to Great, but it's in one of the books from like the 90s. That's one that really did speak to their values, and they lost them somewhere along the way. Isn't that true? Yeah.
100%. In fact, I would love to see the book Good to Great updated a little bit, because my biggest complaint when I assigned that as homework is, another one is Walgreens. Walgreens has kind of lost their luster over time, and it's in the book as an example too. So
Brandon had his hand up. I don't know if it's still up. Did you want to ask a question,
Yeah.
Brandon?
So I guess my question would be, looking at these and kind of with what you're saying with the core value traps, it really seems like while these could be good core values, the fact that the organizations weren't actually embodying them is why they're examples of poor.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's a great way of pointing them out. So thank you. Maybe some of this was aspirational and, respect and integrity. So implementing core values, how to implement them. The biggest thing, and I'll cut to the chase here, is incorporating your core values. Once they're established, we've defined, at the end of the day, what we want, goal is to have more people in our organization that share those same core values. And people that don't share our core values, we kind of repel them from the organization. And if you do it correctly, what will happen is those issues, where those people issues, will begin to kind of bubble up to the top, and then they'll become things that, unfortunately, you may need to make some difficult decisions about. When you are hiring, firing, recognizing, rewarding, and reviewing based on your core values, this really sinks the hook. So think about a magnet. If your core values are a magnet, you're attracting people that share the same values. You flip that same magnet around, and it's pushing those that don't share your core values out of the organization. And it's not an evil or a mean or a bad thing. I like to think of it as, hey, look, you're not a fit for this organization. That's frustrating for you and me. So we're going to unfortunately, need to make a difficult decision. But my hope is that you find an organization that you are a fit in, that is going to be beneficial to you, and you are going to excel and really thrive in that environment. But this just isn't the right environment for you. So I like that, quarterly review. We do that a lot. There's a whole program on it with the OS. So ensuring, how do we get this to sustain itself? It's all about reaffirming. It's all about opening your mouth and sharing on a continual basis, and really having it become part of your day-to-day operations in terms of really. If you want it to become part of your culture, you have got to, it comes with action. You've got to open your mouth. And if you don't, then what we see is, yeah, it looks nice on the wall. It looks great in the employee handbook, but nothing is done out of it. And that's where there's, that disconnect creates an environment where, nobody cares. And he knows what values are. That was actually brought up by a few of you. So I wanted to kind of make project a highlight here. There were some really good comments. I see David is on the show today, and David wrote down that it's all for show. David, kind of maybe tell me a little bit about what your experience is, or kind of define that a little bit for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we had a management change at the company I worked for previously. And within 2 weeks, there was fancy posters and fancy phrases. And then when you looked at the history of the person who employed these nice pictures, it was the same as the company they were at last time.
Yeah.
So it was just repeated. It was up on the wall. There are no changes in that. It doesn't reflect anything. It was purely to put on your business card.
Yeah. It looks great. You hire a sign maker. They come into the employee break room and they put it up on the wall. It looks fancy, and but at the end of the day, it doesn't hold any value. So what I would say in that particular case, David, what didn't happen is the leadership team needs to get together and define what that is. And there needs to be some pushback. And there's, when in working with my clients in EOS, we go through an entire process that for the most part takes about a half a day to go through to pull out what are the things that are important. We push back on those 3 traps. We don't want things to be aspirational or accidental. And really after a while, what we do is we come up with some core values that exist in the organization with people that are already successful in that job. These are core values that, again, as a leadership team, those are they possess, that they hold they hold value to, and they're not the worst thing that you can do, David. And this sounds to me like this may have happened with your organization, was they just came up with some words that they thought were really cool or maybe aspirational, and without going through that process and really identifying that culture of the organization, it really doesn't hit the mark, and it doesn't hold any water. It's not unique, or it's not authentic, it's not genuine, and it doesn't really apply.
Tim, can I go ahead, David? Sorry.
Well, they were actually alliterations, so it sounded really cool. It was actually a little more deceptive than that. We were included on some meetings regarding what our core values should be, and then we all agreed on, and then boom, it was, the decision was already made what they were going to be. So not only did we waste our time, it had no stick to it.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
and Tim, can I ask you? Yeah, and it may be, I don't know how easy, this may be a hard one to answer. So we've got folks on this call that are in multiple stages of their career, frankly,
Right.
and multiple levels in their organizations. But one of the themes that comes through as I listen to you is it does take someone to call out the discrepancies, right? The inconsistencies between the values on the wall and the decisions being made by leadership.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how does a group of professionals like we have on the call here, manage that? And here's let me just add a little more. What I get frustrated with, and what I see too often, especially in, let's just say, more mature companies, is people just throw up their hands and go, "Yeah, that's just words on the wall. Yeah, it's always been this way. Yeah, no, we don't really mean that." I hate that because it takes the spirit out of the company. So is there some way for us to fight back or push back or create the environments? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you see that happen. And then that's an extremely frustrating thing when the organization hasn't embraced it. Ryan, I'm not sure, was that Ryan earlier that asked a question? Yeah, Ryan's on. It looks like he's off camera. This was great here. I'll go to the second sentence. This is awesome because you know what is driving their decisions based on their core values, and they will refer back to them. So there has to be action around your core values. It starts with the leadership team, and it will begin to trickle down. And if the leadership team is not acting on their core values on a continual basis, then nobody else is going to pay attention to them. If the leadership team is pointing out, "Hey, that was a great example of our core value X," and patting somebody on the back in the middle of the day, that reinforcement, that recognizer, rewarding, patting people on the back, praise in public, those kinds of things. It's also when a colleague uses the language. I really encourage my teams to have their core values become part of the DNA of the organization and part of the vernacular of the organization, where you start to hear people using those core values in just their day-to-day activities. So Ryan, really great example of how to do it and do it well. Did that answer your question, Matthew?
George has his hand up. Let's go to George, and maybe I'll come back and ask it a different way.
Yeah.
I guess generally, I think because I've felt it before at organizations, I get David and Matthew's point of, what's your opinion on effectively involving people at different levels of the organization to develop the right core values, but also dictating from a leadership perspective, like, this is the path we're taking forward. So that way you don't feel like David, where, you go into these meetings, you have meetings and then you feel like you're not listened to. So it seems like that's a fine needle to thread between moving forward with core values that are impactful, but also having accountability to the leadership team.
Yeah. So I would say, George, it's really important, not just with core values, but with really the entire vision for the organization, for everybody on the leadership team to have a part and a say, an ability to push back, an ability to add, subtract, help create that vision for the organization. Because at the end of the day, vision is just where we're going, and then utilizing core values, a core focus, some other tools. That's how we're going to put the roadmap together on how we're going to get there. If you don't utilize the leadership team and make sure that everybody buys into every single word of that vision, which includes core values, then it's not time to push them down through the organization. You've got to have complete buy-in, so that it does begin to permeate through the organization. And I will tell you, unfortunately, what happens sometimes is I start out with a leadership team of 5, and maybe there's 1 or 2 people on this leadership team that don't share the same core values of the founder, of the visionary, or of the rest of the organization. And I hate to say it, it is dealing with people's lives. But if you are fractured, if you have 2 people on the leadership team that are not willing, want to act out and enforce, not enforce is the wrong word, but really demonstrate those core values on a day-to-day basis, you might have the wrong person in the organization. And those are unfortunately when you have you have to make difficult decisions. But this is business. I want people to understand it is okay to surround yourself with people that think the way that you do. And I'm not talking about thinking either innovative, politically, any of those things, but core values. What do you hold true? What's important to you? And there needs to be full alignment. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to have results. It's just going to be icky along the way. You're going to be dragging people along. But when you imagine everybody in one of these big, long canoe type boats, everybody in the organization, you got 40 people in the organization, you got 40 people organization rowing the boat in the same direction, and you can see how energy and inertia begins to work for you, as opposed to everybody kind of off doing their own thing. And at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, that's a lot of that is EOS. EOS is about harnessing human energy to get to where you want to go, and core values plays a big part of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tim, can you speak to Jackie's on here? I think that's one I saw and said multiple different ways. And maybe Jackie, if you have anything you want to add to what you wrote there, but I think that's a good one.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, if you can clarify a little bit, Jackie.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to Eric's above. I was looking at his too, and I think so. It seems to happen at a lot of different manufacturing places or even organizations, but we tend to push those to the side if we have an urgency, something coming from like a customer and whatnot, and it's like, oh, this has to get done right away and whatnot. So, we throw all of thought process into this, but yet our core values go to the side, because I know for some of our values, it's making our customers success. We're committed to making our customers successful. Well, if we're not successful in building our product, then our customers are never going to be successful either.
I don't really like the core value of integrity or do the right thing, but let's hypothetically say that is one of our core values. When things start to get high pressured, when deadlines are starting to be met, it goes back to the leadership team needs to have ingrained this in the organization. It becomes part of the fiber. It becomes part of the DNA of the organization. And in those situations where things tend to break, or where they would tend to break down, just having had those conversations, those reinforcement, and really a great job by the leadership team of demonstrating those core values, then you begin to see people begin doing the right things. And even though, if you don't, then you start seeing people, shave the corners, maybe start doing things that aren't the right way of getting it done just because we have this deadline. We need to push it out. Um, and at the end of the day, that's where you really begin to erode on the organization if they're not able to execute on their core values. One of the things that we talked about, you saw it up earlier, is those quarterly reviews. Those are not, the quarterly reviews need to be as clear and concise and as easy and simple for people to understand. I've worked for organizations where it was, there was a formula that spit out at the end based on all of these algorithms that you needed a degree from MIT to figure out, all these different components. And at the end of the day, it was really confusing. But when you sit down and you have an open, honest, transparent conversation with your direct reports, and you're referring back to those core values, and you're sharing with them where we're going as an organization, and where we want to be, and what their role is in the organization, it really cuts through a lot of the noise and helps them understand what it is that they need to be doing when things break down or when there's a high pressure situation. Yeah. Anybody else?
Can we, I see Tim Tremaine on, but he's on mute. Tim, are you there? I wanted to touch on one that you had.
Yeah, what do you got?
So in yours, you mentioned you have environmental as a value, but you have customer demands that they're gonna force you to use non-recyclable products. So that's sort of it creates friction in your ability to live one of your values. I guess I'm kind of interested in how you deal with that, and then maybe some commentary from Tim.
Well, I guess that's the great debate. The question was, when do your values break down? And in some respects, I say, well, is this a value breakdown or is it not? One of our values is care for the environment, care for the community, care for our customers, care for our employees. And so, if we're doing what the customer wants, is that not caring for them? So then it becomes, well, is this a value conundrum that we're in? That it doesn't fit with our environmental value, but yet it fits with our care value. So that's the great debate.
And I think it's less about the final decision that you make on something like that, Tim, and more about the process that the leadership team uses to make the decision. And I would like to hear Tim's feedback on how that process should work.
Yeah. So core values, mission statement, these are all really important for the leadership team. It almost helps by putting up those guardrails, so that as they're making really big, strong decisions, when they're coming across issues, we had this big project and we kind of dropped the ball. It would have been better if we had gone in this direction or taken into consideration care, like you said. Nobody's perfect, you guys. Nobody, and we're not necessarily asking for perfection, but when something like that comes up, the leadership team has to go back and kind of do a debrief and figure out how they can get themselves back on track. So core values, mission state, core focus, all of those things need to help the leadership team really make those decisions for the organization. And if they're not, it's really easy to get outside of that. And I don't have the solution on how to bring it back in. I just know that the leadership team, that nobody is saying here that this is easy. Nobody is saying here that there isn't work involved here. I look at culture of an organization. This is like a big oil tanker, and those things don't turn on a dime. It takes energy, it takes time, it takes effort. So if you're going to change the culture of the organization, this is not a light switch. This is a process that could take potentially 18 months, 2 years to get it to where you want to be. And it's not about Tim and we again, we all make mistakes. It's not about being perfect. But then what do you do with that either mistake or misstep is really important.
Yeah, I think in my mind where I'm at with it is that, we have a vision, we have a mission, we have values.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my opinion, as a staff, we measured all of those things. We said, okay, maybe this, plastic pump meets our mission and it meets our vision. It's meets part of our values, but it doesn't meet other parts of our values. And so for me, it's a matter of, well, we had the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that in this case, it fit in this vein. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
fit in this little part of the vein, but it fit this aspect.
Yeah.
Now, for us, will we be, looking for other plastics in the future that would be more recyclable? Well, of course we will.
Yeah.
But right now that doesn't exist. So we are where we are right now.
Yeah, Tim, let me ask you a question. Are you working for an organization where you have the ability to throw your hand up in a healthy, reciprocal, what's the best for the organization, and say, hey, this isn't right, or this is an issue that we need to address, without there being retribution, without there being, brick walls being put up or excuses being made? Do you work for an organization like that?
Well, I am the organization, so yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
if there's anything that I have a problem with, it might be more encouraging my staff and my team to raise their hand
yes.
if they perceive a problem.
Yeah.
So they tend to follow my lead, which is great, and it puts, obviously I have to model the values as best I can, but I also need, sometimes I'm thinking here and not over here, and I need other people to help me filter and say, hey, wait a minute, are we really focused on the right things here?
Yeah. Well, I think really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is effort put into uh, identifying what your core values are, dropping those down through the organization, and then begin to hold people accountable for their actions, whether it be making a decision or how they will go about doing their work. And unfortunately, the biggest thing is there are a lot of companies out there that just throw a bunch of words up on the wall and then don't follow them. And my encouragement would be, hey, if that's going to be a problem for you, maybe you're not in the right organization. And I'm not trying to help you guys make life decisions here. But if you are in a position on the leadership team and you have a say in terms of building the culture, my advice to you is to go about doing so in a way that really does reflect the culture of the organization, and then begin surrounding yourself with more people.
So Tim Barrett, both Tims, thank you. This is where I was trying to get the conversation, because I always want our participants to be able to walk away with something. And Tim Barrett, I think you got there, which was, I hear kind of two things. One is, if the values aren't matching with you, you are empowered to go somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I want to, and Chad, I know your hand is up. I do want to get to you, so don't lose faith here, my friend. But then the other piece of that is, depending on your role in the organization, you have more authority, ability to speak up, right? Also recognize, and this is what I wanted to get from Tim Tremaine, is these aren't easy, right? These are, it's not, it is easy, frankly, depending on where we are in the company, to look at the values and go, oh, we don't follow those, we're not living those. Well, guess what? Management is making hard decisions, right? And to the extent that management can communicate those down, they should, so that the employees can understand that they're making hard decisions. And then for all of us in continuous improvement roles, right, we do have an opportunity at the point where we're talking about initiatives, roadmaps, big changes. We have a point to bring those values, print them out, bring them to the conversation and say, hey, folks, this initiative meets the values or this initiative doesn't meet the values. And then let's talk about why. And it's not as easy as saying we shouldn't do it or we should do it, but it is about recognizing that those are our guides. And if we're not following our guides, we should be asking why. And I do think regardless of where you are inside of your companies, you all can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not, then you know, at EOS, we really try to promote a culture where you have that ability to throw up your, that ultimately is a culture. And if you're not, and your opinion doesn't matter, then maybe you're not a fit for that particular organization. So
Chad, I don't want to run out of time. Chad, what did you want to ask?
For Tim, I got a question. Do you think a company's real culture is best revealed in moments of pressure? And if so, what do the posters accomplish then? Right?
Yeah. I would say if the culture has been defined well and with great intent and with great effort, and accurately describes what is important to the organization, I think those moments of high pressure or deadlines, those things are a great opportunity for the leadership team to lean into those core values, and really, kind of, when they're recapping, it'd be a great opportunity to be saying, hey, look, when we did this and our core value is grit, this was a great opportunity. We were behind on this. Everybody rallied in the organization. Grit is us just making it happen and being successful. That was I'm really proud of this team for exhibiting the core value. So those difficult times, deadlines, fires that are going on, whatever, can actually really do a great job of enforcing those.
And show how that's when it pays off, because we all revert. But if we work those core values into our DNA, then absolutely at those pressure points, it's going to come out versus reverting back to something less.
Yeah, really good, Matthew. Thank you.
Tim, you had something?
You're on mute.
Hit the wrong button. I was just going to ask, we try really hard to put some sort of measure to values, and I'm just kind of wondering, it's a very difficult thing sometimes, and I'm just wondering if you have experience or if anyone else has experience with applying any sort of metrics to help focus you into these values.
Yeah. Tim, if you go to the website, the EOS Worldwide website, or if you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to. There is a tool that we use. It's called the People Analyzer, and it's just exactly that. It's analyzing people in terms of how they relate to the core values. It can be transferred and then used as part of that review process. The key with this is we're not judging people. Are they always, or if they're perfect with the core values? The guideline is, can they be counted on to most of the time exhibit the core values? Nobody's perfect. We're not walking around as robots. And if they are, then they probably, that's a plus. Somebody that sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's a can be counted on to not exhibit the core values. That's a minus. So there's only 3 grades. Again, we're going to try to keep things as simple as we can. And yes, there is absolutely a tool for you to use in terms of rating or of putting some value to those core values.
That's for grading individuals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about grading an organization?
We have a tool. It's called the Organizational Checkup, which is something that you can take online. Again, you could go to, I can either forward that to you. Feel free to reach out, or you can go to eosworldwide.com. look for the organizational checkup. And it's going to give you a report card on everything involved in core values. And really, to be honest with you, there's about 20 questions that'll give you a jumping off place in terms of, how effective your organization is and ways that maybe EOS can. I think there was another question out there.
I was going to say we're a little over time, but I like Brandon Holly's comment in the chat there, so I'm going to let him close us out. Brandon, what was your takeaway there? Share that with everyone, please.
So my big takeaway is to basically try to verbalize the core values more often is the big thing. So when I'm facilitating a Kaizen or any kind of improvement project, if it's multi-day, then the start of each day, just starting out, here are our core values as an organization. If I'm doing a phase gate review for a project, going through the PDCA or DMAIC or whichever one is applicable, as I go through those phases, just going, here are the core values, here's how we meet these 3 of them out of 5 or 6. We have 6, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think for me, at least, because I often have a disconnect personally, but just I think starting to take the onus on myself to actively say these are the core values might be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, the first time that you hear somebody in the organization use that vernacular or throw that back at you, it'll make all of that time and effort really pay off. It'll really make your day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim. This
My
is
pleasure.
Very great information. I think everyone has something they can take back. Thank you to the group, and have a great rest of the month. And I look forward to seeing you all again in March.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you,
for the
Tim.
opportunity to
Thanks,
talk,
Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.